All right, let me make sure we TWAP online. Give me 1 second while I'm check the sound. Look like the sound's good. Hold on, I like to scoop my camera back a little bit. I don't want my ugly mug all in the camera. All right, we looking good. Let me check YouTube real quick. Excuse me. All right, it look like we good on YouTube. Testing, mic check. All right, Most High in Christ. All right, now let me fix this. All right, look like we good. Clap it up. Shalom. We are the I.S.U.P.K. Start out at a 1 West 105th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. And we are not affiliated with any other Israelite group or organization. And what we do is teach the truth according to the Bible. And this evening, tonight, is the Tuesday night brotherhood class right here in Kansas City, KCMO. You understand? Where we get it in with the brotherhood, where we teaching and breaking down the scriptures, breaking down the laws, break it down so brothers and sisters can understand the Bible. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to learn the Bible in a Christian church. You know, they supposed to be teaching the Bible, but your pastor's in there talking 2-3 hours and not even reading one Bible verse. And when he reads it, and when he finally decides to read a Bible verse and to do what he's talking about. And how do I know this? Because I grew up in a Christian church. You know, I grew up in a Christian church as well. So I know that's what the pastors be doing. They talk for 3 hours and they read a Bible verse that has nothing to do with what they talking about, but they make it seem like it has something to do with what they talking about because they do a lot of filibustering. They do a lot of, editing to the verse. They edit all the Bible verses to fit the narrative of Christianity when Christianity is not even a thing. That's a man-made religion, and that's not biblical. Christianity isn't biblical. You understand what I'm saying? But if this is your first time tuning in, if you run across this, please like, share, and subscribe so we can push the truth more in the algorithm. You know what I mean? So we can get more brothers and sisters in this school, especially here in Kansas City. You know, in Kansas City, we really need the truth, which we need the truth everywhere. The truth has to be pushed throughout the four corners of the earth so we can wake up all blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians who are the true Israelites according to the Bible. Believe it or not. You know what I mean? I know it may sound crazy or far-fetched, but believe me, until I ran across the I.S.U.P.K. and I started learning the truth according to the Bible, everything started to be clear. Everything started making things that I never thought I would be teaching myself. I never thought I'd be teaching the Bible myself because I was so consumed in the world and so consumed with the world. I thought, just trying to make a bag was my entire life. I thought just trying to generate and make as much money as possible was life. I didn't really think outside of that, but trying to just get money, trying to just have pleasure, trying to just chase the lust of the world. I thought that was life. You understand? And I would go to church every now and then, go to a funeral every now and then and hear something from some pastor that was lying to me, and it would feel good for a moment. But it wasn't enough to convert me to try to do better pertaining to the Bible or pertaining to the Most High God. You understand? See, Christianity just gives you a false feeling like you're really doing something positive when in reality you're not doing nothing. You understand? Because it doesn't teach us, Christianity doesn't teach us to sacrifice our own lust for what we want to do. for what the Most High wants us to do. Christianity teaches us to fulfill what we want to do, but it doesn't teach us to fulfill what the Lord wants us to do, which is to repent and live by the way that He wants us to live. Christianity doesn't give us that discipline. You understand? And we're gonna read and go over and go talk about some things tonight. How Christianity has completely destroyed black people. I never knew that it was something called black privilege. Being a nigga in America, I don't see how you can ever see that we have any type of privilege. The only privilege we have is the privilege that our oppressor allows us to have in their kingdom, because this is their kingdom. And Salakia, which means excuse me, I have like a little congestion and my throat is a little bit irritated. So if you hear me clear my throat, you gonna see me drinking this water. It's because my throat's a little irritated. So just bear with me with that. You know, but however, I never knew that Negroes thought that we had black privilege. You understand? You know, that's easy to show that we don't. That's easy to show that we don't have black privilege at all. You understand? All right, let me check this thing real quick before we get started. Pull my notes up. White privilege is the reason why we have Donald Trump in the White House. You understand? White privilege is Donald Trump saying that he can grab women by the private parts and everyone still vote for him. White privilege is showing Donald Trump also showing that he is he has a PDF file pertaining to minors, you know, him making all kind of nasty remarks about minors, or hell, even his own daughter. He made remarks about his own daughter, but people went and broke their necks for Donald Trump because he showed how much he hated the Mexicans. You understand? He showed his true colors. He showed how he was for his people. You understand? And he wanted to make America great again. That's the thing. He wears the red hat, and all the MAGA supporters that wants to make America great again. They all want America to thrive in white privilege. White privilege, even though you may be a black conservative like Candace Owens, white privilege will never benefit you. I don't care how much education you get. I don't care how successful you are in business. You understand? And that's what and that's a key point that I want to point out tonight. We're going to talk about, because when you talk about white privilege, you understand, for those that don't believe in white privilege, the first thing that they go to, well, there's poor white people, when that's not the privilege. The privilege isn't being rich or poor. So, if the privilege of being white has to do with monetary gain or how much money you're worth, that means poor black people are even less. You understand? And in a sense, we are poor black people. We are considered less of the less of the less. Because think about it. White privilege has nothing to do with how much money you make. So think about it like this: like if you seen a homeless so-called white man out on the corner holding a sign, begging for food, begging for help, he's still going to get more help than a so-called black man. He's still going to get more help. Hell, how do I know? Because when we go out and teach on Saturdays on the Sabbath, on the seventh day of the week, and we go out and try to wake our people up, and we street teach and we hold down camp, they tell us to get a job as if we are homeless. They don't even know us from a can of paint, because we're out there expressing our freedom of speech. They look at us like, oh, those are just some poor niggas, right? But when you go see oppressors protest and march like oppressors are currently, just a few weeks ago, oppressors were um, marching and protesting because they wanted to practice their freedom of speech, and they wanted to come against Donald Trump for whatever reasons that they wanted to come against Donald Trump. You didn't hear people riding by telling them to go get a job. People were honking. People were supporting them because they're oppressors. But we're not valued the same as our oppressors. And that's just the simple, that's just common. I can't say it's common sense, it's just facts. It's just facts. Ain't no way around it. So you have so-called black people. Let me play this clip real quick. I got it in my notes. Okay, here it go. But first, hold on. First, before I play this clip, I wanted to read this definition of white privilege that I Googled. Right, you know, when you Google, it gives an AI summary and things like that. So I'm gonna read the definition of white privilege first, right? Now, keep in mind, we have so-called black conservatives and so-called black people that don't believe that it's a such thing as white privilege because they are running with the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk used to say, well, what opportunities don't you have that I have? I'm white. You have the same opportunities we do. You understand? They like to run with the narrative. In reality, from the perspective that he's putting it in, he's right. But he is also being crafty and cunning with his words because we had a disadvantage, right? And they're trying to escape from the fact that America was racist for so long. You understand? They try to do this time and time and time and time again to try to erase the history of America to make it seem like we always had the same opportunities when in reality we didn't. That's why they always will try to point out the black crime and all the black statistics that makes us look bad. That's another form of white privilege because no one's pointing theirs out and they're the most criminalized, if that's a word. Our oppressor, the so-called white man, is the most criminalized nation of people in the earth. You understand? They're the most criminal people in the earth. They stole an entire country. They stole entire nations. They unalive people by the millions. And then they're going to turn around and tell you that America is not built on hate, that they are not a hateful nation, that they're the most perfect nation, how everybody should be like. They want to push Western civilization and Western ways on everybody. You understand? So between Republican, Democrat, and liberals, there are all those are all look, all three of those are different forms of culture. You understand? Whether you're a liberal, whether you're a Democrat, or whether you're a Republican. And all three, you understand? All three have did a horrible job in making America great again, or making America great. Or Salaki, they have all did a horrible job of running America. They have. They want to blame blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, but look at the state of America. We have never been in charge. We have never been running America. We're not the reasons that the taxes is high. I don't care if you try to blame the food stamps. Before the food stamps, it was the tax was as high, the foods was high. You had the Great Depression, uh, it was tons of things happening in America that you can't point the blame on blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. They just don't want to hold themselves accountable because that's the privilege they have. They want to turn around and blame us. And now you have simple-minded Negroes, simple-minded Oreos, simple-minded coons that sell out their own people, and they believe the rhetoric that our oppressor teaches against your own nation when they're the ones who put us in the conditions that we're in today. And then they throw rocks and hide their hands. That's white privilege, man. That's white privilege. You understand? Anytime you can have other nations taking up for you behind something you did to another nation, to your own nation, to someone else's nation, man, that's a privilege we can't even imagine in our minds, right? As being black, we can't even imagine that type of privilege. We can't even imagine that type of power. You want to know why? It's because they have torn us down, and we look at each other like we're enemies, and we don't look at our enemy as an enemy, when the Bible says never trust thine enemy. Because when they had us in slavery, when they brought us over here, they was not our friends. You understand? Now all of a sudden we can forget everything and we can be friends. You know what I mean? Now that y'all are tamed, y'all niggas is tamed, and we can keep y'all under control and ain't got to worry about y'all ever rising up and coming to, get take back what we stole. That's what they scared of. They basically just got niggas in a petting zoo. And that's it. They just got niggas in a petting zoo. You understand? That's all. Now niggas is in America. Our oppressor is a fate was always look was always is and is always afraid of us taking back what they stole, but they know that through white supremacy, through white privilege, through Martin Luther King's dream, and all the oppression they continue to push against us, guess what? They just have niggas in a petting zoo. And guess what? Now we just good old slaves. They don't have to whip our backs. They don't have to put yokes around our neck anymore. We are controlled by them through trying to be a part of them, because we have to prove Black Lives Matter. They don't have to prove White Lives Matter. You understand? We have to prove Black Lives Matter. So our oppressor can never understand, Salakia. We can never understand what it is to be an oppressor. We just think we can understand because we have this blind hope of equality. We have this blind hope of MLK's dream. We have this blind hope that everybody is equal. So there is no white privilege because everybody is equal. So let me get to this. Oh, I ain't even read the definition yet, Salakia. Let me read the definition real quick. It says white privilege, inherent advantages possessed by a white person on the basis of their race in a society characterized by racial inequality and injustice. So, a few things with that definition. Inherent advantages. Those first two words alone should let you know that white privilege is true. Inherit in advantages. How did our oppressor inherit advantages? You understand? Now the Bible told us if we continue to be hard-headed, if we continue to disobey the Most High God, that we would go back into Egypt with ships. You understand? So we went back into Egypt. Egypt is a Greek word that means bondage. We were in Egypt a long time ago when Moses led us out. And because we didn't listen to Moses, because we didn't continue the ways of our forefathers, um, in following the Bible and following the Most High, the Lord allowed the curses that were written in the Bible to consume us. You understand? He didn't make the curses for us, but he allowed the curses that were made to consume us because we didn't listen. It's sort of like turning your back on your power, which we did. It's like turning your back on the one that's protecting you. You leave the one that's protecting you and you go run to the one who's not going to protect you, the one that makes it seem like he's going to protect you, the one that is, setting snares and traps. You ran from your protection and you ran to a snare and we ran to a trap. And then we think the life is better on the other side because when you get snared and when you get trapped and when you get kidnapped, you develop a condition called Stockholm Syndrome. You understand? And Stockholm Syndrome is when you start having empathy for the one who is oppressing you. You start thinking like, well, maybe this ain't so bad. You understand? I know I was kidnapped and locked in a basement or a dungeon for 5 years, and they beat me, they raped me, they fed me scraps, they did all this negative things to me. But after a while, you start to have feelings for the one oppressing you, and you start to forget how cruel they've been treating you. Now, this is a psychological game that our oppressor has done to the entire nation of Israel, blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. And through these vices that they did, taking this physically, they created other vices to manipulate our minds. I mean, they created the white privilege, they created redlining, they created even white and black. They put their society and held their society to a standard to where they were better than everyone else in the earth. You understand? They try to make their society run parallel with the Bible. The difference is the God of the Bible, the God that created all the heavens and all the earth and created every living thing, the Most High God, he gave us a privilege. He made us to be privileged. You understand? On the right hand side, our oppressor is privileged on the left hand side. Our oppressor's privilege comes from Satan because the so called oppressor is the devil that speaks of. You understand? So we got to realize that the privilege that we are chasing to be equal to our oppressor isn't privilege at all. You get what I'm saying? So they inherited advantages. All the advantages that our oppressor, the so-called white man, have was inherited through slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, through them stealing, through them murdering, through them doing all kind of grotesque and gruesome things throughout the earth. That's how the so-called white man inherited the advantages that they have today to even have white privilege. They didn't get it off hard work. They didn't get it out the mud. They got it by stealing. They got it by killing. They got it by robbing, by plaguing, by pillaging, by every negative thing that you can think of. You understand? That's how they remain on top. And we wasn't part of that. We was on the opposite end. So the advantages our oppressor inherited through based off their race and society characterized by racial inequality and injustices, they inherit the right to do that, right? The inequality and the racial injustices, they inherit the right to do that through the transatlantic slave trade, through their forefathers, you understand, and how they established this country. They would never put down the so-called American flag. Our oppressors won't put down the American flag. They know what the American flag stands for. We just have a hard time accepting what it stands for because we want to be equal to the oppressor. And we will never be equal to the oppressor because this is their kingdom. They benefit from their kingdom. Just like blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, when the Most High God brings the kingdom of heaven back down to the earth through Yahushua, our King Jesus, guess what? They won't have privilege in our kingdom. And they shouldn't have privilege in our kingdom. We will be the privilege in our kingdom. Remember, they want to run their kingdom parallel to our kingdom. Our kingdom's on the right side, their kingdom's on the left side. The difference between black and white privilege is who is in rulership. That's the difference between black and white privilege, is who is in rulership. Your oppressor is in rulership. So you won't have the same privileges as your oppressor. So we're going to have to endure through systemic racism. We're going to have to endure through all the hatred, all the injustices. We shouldn't even expect equality. You understand? You shouldn't even expect it. Now, granted, are we in America? Are people fighting for injustices? Are people fighting for these crimes being committed for so-called black people? Of course. Of course. But the very fact that we have to continue to remind our Black Lives Matter that we are human beings too. That, you shouldn't do these type of things to people just simply based off the color of your skin. You know what I mean? You should judge a man based off his character, right? But remember, the Bible says the wicked are estranged from the womb. The wicked are estranged from the womb. So they're not going to look at things the way a righteous person would look at things. Now, keep in mind, I said the oppressor's kingdom will run parallel, right? It's trying to run parallel with the kingdom of the Most High God on the left-hand side. But keep in mind, we are a righteous nation. So we're not going to have people starving throughout the whole earth just so we can benefit, right? And what I mean by that is we're not going to commit crimes and commit sin against other nations just to thrive. That's going to be the difference between our kingdom and the kingdom our oppressor is currently running, because they make every decision based off hurting the poor. Hurting the poor. They don't give a damn about the poor. You seen they just cut the food stamps off. They just recently cut it back on. But people, Salakia, they, you know, took a benefit out of all the things that could have been shut down. They ain't shut down them goddamn taxes. You still paying taxes on everything every time you go to the store. You understand? They shut down things that, people really could use, like food stamps and SNAP. People, some children could have starved to death. But your oppressor is so cruel. The oppressor is so cruel and so unjust that they were willing to risk the lives of millions of Americans, right? In order to prove a point. In order to prove a point. Now, the Bible says this: can two walk together lest they agree? America doesn't even agree with each other. And that's part of America's problem. When our kingdom is established by the Most High God, by Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, when this kingdom is established by the Most High, right? There won't be a Republican Party. There won't be a Democratic Party. It's just going to be the truth, nigga. You understand? It's just going to be one way and one way only. And we are going to shine light into the Gentiles. And they're going to follow our ways. We're going to teach them how to be civilized. Our oppressors going to learn how to have some goddamn manners in the kingdom of heaven. You won't be walking around with your nose up, you understand, and walking around being weirdos, stuck up. Look, y'all got a day coming. You oppressors. That's all I got to say. And you other heathen nations, you nasty nations, y'all gonna get civilized. Y'all gonna get in order. You Hamites, you Africans, you East Indians, you Asians, y'all not gonna be eating bats, pangolins. Y'all not gonna be spreading disease and COVID. We're gonna run this earth the way it's supposed to be ran, through the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. There will not be Republicans. There will not be Democrats. There won't be no goddamn liberal party. You won't get a sex change. You're going to be put to death. You understand me? So white privilege definitely exists. Now, so let me go to this. Let me go to this video. Now, if some of y'all may have seen this video, let me check and make sure we ain't got no comments. Some of y'all may have seen this video. I'm new to this. I ain't hip to this right here. This video right here. Check this out. And this is a brother too. This baffles me. This is a brother. Okay, so Joel, help me out. Okay. This truck pulls up. Yep. In fairness, the front says white privilege because it comes up like this. And then I'm waiting. I understand, Joel, if I was trying to figure out who was getting out of the truck, I didn't think you were getting out of the truck. Yeah, bitch. You do understand? I was like, yo, what's going on here in Miami with the white privilege truck? And then you get out and you got the white privilege card. So you gotta tell me what the hell's going on. I like surprising people. And it really throws people for a loop. It gives a good opportunity to create content. So I love creating content and like getting people's reactions because, what's more ridiculous than white privilege? I don't believe white privilege exists. I believe everybody works hard to get what they have. I love it when people tell me that, oh, yeah, white people have privilege. I was like, well, tell that to a poor white kid in a trailer park. I was a poor white kid. Yeah, you wish I live in a trailer park because I don't. I live in an RV park. And so it kind of came about around like the whole Black Lives Matter thing. And I was looking for a product that I could create because I was getting canceled left and right from sponsors. Nobody was canceled. Yeah, nobody wanted to sponsor me. And so I created the white privilege card and then we started selling them and people started buying them. And I
built a brand around it, and it was my way of voicing my conservative values through comedy. Was kind of, making the white privilege car joke. People film the truck. When I see a car like this, first thing I do is I say, would you look at this? You know what I mean? And then I would get out and make a response video to them filming the truck. Got him again. Okay, so Joel, help me out. Okay.
So,
In fairness, the front says white privilege.
so a few things. He said no one will support him. He created a brand. He's selling white privilege cars, and he has a big, stupid truck that has white privilege on the grill. Now, that's a few things. He said he doesn't believe white privilege exists. He also said that now somebody correct me if I'm wrong, right? He said he started selling the cards and the white privilege merch, right? Who the hell does he think's buying it? You think a bunch of niggas is buying cards that say white privilege? Somebody answer that question. Who is buying white privilege cards for some? Come on. Who's buying the cards? Who's buying the white privilege cards? I know for sure I wouldn't buy one. You understand? But this is the thing. One of the first things that the brother said was, you know, is poor white children. Therefore, um, there's not a such thing as white privilege. Now, when we just read the definition of white privilege, it didn't say anything about poor white people. You get what I'm saying? White privilege has nothing to do with your class, middle class, lower class, upper class. That has nothing to do with your class because all white people are alike. All white people are alike, from the elite all the way down to the homeless. They all benefit and thrive here in America one way or another. They came over here and established the country, and now they have the most powerful country in the world. You understand? America is the most powerful country in the world. So no matter if you're part of the elite, no matter if you're a homeless and don't got two nickels to rub together, guess what? You benefit from the white privilege of your forefathers that established this country. White privilege has nothing to do with being poor. And that's why I hate when especially black people who are sellouts and who think that they're conservative and who make white privilege cards. Nigga, ain't no niggas buying a white privilege card. You probably the only nigga that got a white privilege card, and that's because you making money off of them. You making mockery of your own nation, and you're getting money from your oppressor to degrade your own nation. And that's typically damn near every black conservative, every black sellout, every black athlete, every black entertainer. They get money. We get money to degrade our own people from our oppressor. Your oppressor is the one that gives you a record deal. Your oppressor is the one who signs your NBA contracts. Your oppressor is the one that allows you to come in the Democratic Party and the um, Republican Party or Liberal Party. Your oppressor. Niggas is still trying to show our oppressor, the so-called white man, that Black Lives Matter. And here you got this brother talking about white privilege doesn't exist. White privilege doesn't exist. And then the first thing niggas run to prove white privilege doesn't exist is that it's poor white people. When we just read the definition of white privilege, it has nothing to do with the class. You can be the elite at the top making all the money, or you can be a bum that don't got two nickels or a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. White privilege has nothing to do with how much money you have. But that's how the oppressor, right? And this is where he gets this ideology. This, you know, hey, what's going on? I got by Shemesh Rakatah. Hey, young man James, what's going on? I get a brother a hand. Checking in the class. We talking about some black privilege and white privilege. You understand? Uh, if you think you got black privilege, that's because you know, hell, I don't know why the hell you think you got black privilege. I don't even know where you can have black privilege in America without your oppressor being at the forefront of it. But anyway, like I said, this brother is confused. I'm gonna play the clip again. I'm gonna play a little bit of the clip for those who didn't see. Has anybody else seen this video?
Help me out. Okay. This truck pulls up. Okay, so Joel, help me out. Okay. This truck pulls up. Yep. In fairness, the front says white privilege because it comes up like this. And then I'm waiting. Now you understand, Joel, if I was trying to figure out who was getting out of the truck, I didn't think you were getting out of the truck. Hey, bitch. Did you understand? I was like, yo, what's going on here in Miami with the white privilege truck? And then you get out and you got the white privilege card. So you gotta tell me what the hell's going on. I like surprising people. Surprise, and it really throws people for a loop. It gives a good opportunity to create content. So I love creating content and like getting people's reactions because what's more ridiculous than white privilege? Yeah. I don't believe white privilege exists. I believe everybody works hard to get what they have. I love it when people tell me that, oh yeah, white people have privilege. I was like, well, tell that to a poor white kid in a trailer park. Live in a trailer park because I don't.
See what I'm saying? White privilege to them is because you're poor. So just because you're poor and you're white doesn't mean you're excluded from having white privilege. You understand? That's the point. Now look at this. Look, check this out.
Do you want to talk about white privilege? I was born dirt poor. Roaches in our food, mattresses on the floor, eviction notices taped to the doors, kind of poor. My parents, their side hustle was beating me and my siblings bloody. I missed more meals than I can count. When we did eat, it was ramen, canned foods, or whatever we could steal from the gas station. There were 8 of us kids. So come at me like I grew up in some quiet backwoods town either. We weren't hearing deer rifles. We were hearing 9 millimeters and Glocks on a nightly basis. Not because we were hunting, because we were dodging stray bullets in the inner city. I had a baby as a teenager, thought maybe I could break the cycle. Went to college, flunked out quick. Life was swinging before I even had a chance to plant my feet. Then the military came knocking, promised me structure, a future, and a way out. What I got? Another flavor of hell. Straight out of basic, they shipped me to Afghanistan. 19 years old, couldn't buy a beer back home, but I could carry a rifle, kick indoors, and watch friends die in pieces. I came home to a wife who had cheated on me while I deployed, ended in divorce, missed my baby's first steps, first words, first everything. I got the title dad, but only for 2 days every other week when the courts allowed me. So I drank. I numbed it out. I drowned it in alcohol and women. Hopped from job to job, security, government contracts, even worked with the feds for a minute. But it all fell apart. I ended up homeless, ashamed, alone, and broken. Now, I've been sober for 4 years, been through more therapy than most folks can stomach, read hundreds of books, and here's what I figured out. As bad as I have had it, if I was black, I probably wouldn't have survived it. That ain't an opinion, that's truth. Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but 38% of the prison population. 1 in 3 black boys born today, they're expected to end up behind bars. That ain't by accident. That is policy. That's century of racism passed off as justice. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery, it rebranded it. It says slavery is legal as punishment for a crime. That's why we got corporations making billions off of prison labor while folks inside earn cents an hour if they're lucky. That clause was written to target black Americans, and it's still doing exactly that. Now I run an organization called West Virginia Fights Back. We've
Well, you heard it. You heard it from the oppressor. Even though that 13%, them trying to they trying to push that narrative like with Charlie Kirk. But however, like I get an oppressor a little bit of credit. You know what I mean? You get credit when credit's due, right? There are disadvantages that we have throughout society, and people try to act like we're blind. Now, what's crazy is you heard the brother with the white privilege truck talk about how he doesn't feel that white privilege exists. And then you hear this oppressor, everything that he threw. He said if he was black, he probably wouldn't even have made it. He gave his whole spiel, how he grew up dirt poor and how he grew up, in the ghetto, and how they had to steal to eat and survive. But he knew if he was black that he wouldn't survive. He's pretty much like, I probably would be dead or in jail, because he grew up in the same poor neighborhoods, but he's not targeted like black people. He know he's not a target. You understand? So white privilege has nothing to do with how much money you have. It don't have nothing to do with, if you poor, if you rich. It has everything to do with white people who have inherited advantages given to them by their forefathers. We inherited disadvantages. And you want to know why? Because this isn't our kingdom. This kingdom that they created, this kingdom that they built called America, it was not built for us. We were not included in this. We were brought here for like cattle. You understand? Now they freed us, and it's a whole history on why they freed us. They didn't free us because they just was like, well, we just had enough of slavery. We've been beating their backs too long. No, they had civil wars before they freed us. And the whole motive of us being freed wasn't because they wanted to be our friends. And then once they freed us, what happened? We still went through hell, just like we still going through hell now. Now, what does this say about blacks and Hispanics? What should we do? What should we start focusing on? What? Because the Bible says this is not our rest. America isn't our rest. The things that we seeing being done to each other, being done to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we should start rising up. You understand? Not just when we see it on TV, not when we just see the George Floyds or the Rodney Kings, not when we just see them people or see them brothers. We should make a continual way, or we should do this continually. You understand? We shouldn't just do it when we see it on TV and go ride, tear up the city and march, and then forget about it. The next day we back getting high, knocking down hoes. No, we should stop all that and focus on fixing black problems. That way we don't focus on white privilege. Because right now we'll never be broken free or break free from the illusion that we will one day be equal with our oppressor when they created this kingdom for us. Just like the Most High God created this kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, that will be here when Yahweh Shah returns or when Christ returns, Salaki. Just like he created that kingdom, this kingdom, for the Israelites, he created it for us. Let me get a precept. This is Psalms. This is what we have to focus on as a nation. This is what black people have to focus on as a nation. This is how we're going to get the kingdom, because the Bible was given to us. So if the kingdom of heaven that is written in the Bible was given to us, of course the Bible is going to show us how to get the kingdom of heaven, right? And this is in Psalms chapter 147, verses 19 and 20. He showeth his word unto Jacob. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. So he showeth his word unto Jacob. Who showeth his word unto Jacob? This is talking about the Most High and how he established his kingdom and how he established the kingdom through the prophets and our forefathers. You understand? He established the kingdom through our forefathers. You know, and all the prophets are showing the nation how we're supposed to live our lives, right? He showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel, his statutes, the way that we're supposed to conduct ourselves. The Bible is supposed to be our constitution. Like America has their constitution, they have white privilege. The Bible is black privilege. You didn't know that. I bet you didn't understand. The Constitution of America is white privilege. Black privilege is the Bible. The Bible is the Constitution for niggas, blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. The Constitution for America, for white people, that's their Constitution. But the Constitution for niggas is the Bible. So the Constitution that is written in America, that's white privilege. The Constitution written in the Bible, that's for niggas. We have to understand this. If we don't understand that, we'll continue to try to fit in with white privilege. It'll never work. Just like the Bible that is written for us, for blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, it's never going to work for them. It's never going to work for them. I understand we've been beaten. I understand we've been, we haven't been taught the wrong way. I understand a lot of times we feel hopeless. We feel like, well, what the hell are we supposed to do? Every time that we, every time that we, get ahead, it's like we take 10 steps back. But that's because we don't listen to the Bible. We don't listen to the Most High God. We don't know that we're supposed to be coming together as a nation. We don't know that we're supposed to be repentant. We don't know we're supposed to have brotherhood. We're supposed to love each other. We don't know those. We don't know those things. And if we keep trying to include our oppressor versus loving our brother, loving our neighbor, that's going to make it harder for us to accept each other. And that's what we haven't figured out yet as a nation. We keep trying to include them. We have to separate ourselves from them so we can elevate. You ever heard that term? Separation is elevation. That's not talking about you separating yourself from your cousins and shit and from niggas who hating on you. No, we got to separate ourselves from the oppressor. We got to separate ourselves from this system. We got to separate ourselves from sin. That's how we're going to elevate. We got to celebrate. We got to separate ourselves from celebrating birthdays. We got to separate ourselves from celebrating Thanksgiving, which is coming up, in Christmas. We got to separate our feelings that we had towards each other that keeps us separated, like all the hate, because all that does is strengthen white privilege. If we hate white privilege, right, we should start building black privilege. And the book that is going to do it, the foundation that is going to do it, is right here in the Bible. Let me read it again. This time I'm going to read it all the way through. This is Psalms 147, verses 19 and 20. He showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. Verse 20. He have not dealt so with any nation. And as far as his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Most High. So they haven't known the judgments of the Lord because they wasn't given the laws of the Lord. They wasn't given the statutes of the Lord. They wasn't given the judgments of the Lord. That's for us. That's for us. You understand? He didn't show it to any other nation. He showed it to us. So we have to start focusing on loving each other. We got to start focusing on what the Lord expects out of us. And then we will start building that black privilege. And we won't even worry about white privilege, man. Let me get some more of these clips that I got. Right? Oh, and that was another point. That was another point that I wanted to prove. When they keep trying to talk about the conditions of black people, right? They keep trying to talk about, well, they're not talking about the conditions of black people. But have you noticed that all white people that talk about white privilege doesn't exist? They always jump to them being poor, right? They always jump to them being poor because they look at niggas like they nothing, like we just poor and we bums. Oh, I don't have white privilege. I was born in the ghetto. I heard 9mm shots. I heard Glocks going off. What the hell does that even have to do with being black? You see what I'm saying? They try to push the propaganda and all the stereotypical things. Those things do go on in the black community. But white people shoot, they do the same things that we do. It's just ours is put in the forefront because the Bible says that we would be an astonishment, right? And your oppressor, our oppressor, Salakia, is going to use tactics. They're going to be cunning. They're going to be witty, like it Psalms and like it says in Psalm 83, the 83rd chapter, right? That they're going to be wise to like how they move against us to damage us, whether they damage us physically, unalive us, or whether they damage our what's the word I'm looking for? Our character, our reputation. You know what I mean? They damaged our reputation so bad that people that don't live in America, especially black people here in America and the Mexicans and Native Indians, people from other countries judge us based off the propaganda our oppressors push, and they never met us a day of their life. That's why the Africans hate us. Well, the Africans, all the heathens hate us. But you'll also have like people that live in the Caribbean, other Israelites, they'll judge us the same way. Just like we judge each other here. We judge each other here based off the same propaganda. And what's cold-blooded about it, we know that our oppressor is using the same propaganda, but still yet we here in America and we still judge each other based off what they say. We hate each other for all the reasons that they hate us. And they the ones who put us in these conditions. You understand? That's the cold part about it. So I wanted to read this precept. This is Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. And it says, I am black, but comely. Solomon basically like, yeah, I'm black, but I'm beautiful. Yeah, I'm black, but I'm beautiful. That's what King Solomon said back in the day. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Hold on. That ain't all I wanted. Look at me. Oh, that's not the verse that I wanted, but okay, King Solomon definitely said that. That's not the precept. I had that precept written down for something else. But I wanted Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2. This is the one I wanted right here. It says, Judah mourneth. Judah mourneth. It's talking about the Judites. And the gates thereof languish. They are blackened to the ground. And the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Now, why did I prove this precept? Now, oppressors, when they try to discredit it being white privilege here in America, they always go and talk about the conditions, right? Now, this is the difference. Your oppressor, the so-called white man, they created the conditions for black people. They created these conditions. They put crack cocaine in the black community. They redlined us. They destroyed Black Wall Street. They did a lot of things to keep us at the bottom. Our oppressor did. They didn't do that to white people. You understand? That's why I'm saying Judah mourned. We mourned through a lot when we were about here on the transatlantic slave trade, when the native Indians were unalive, when the pilgrims came and settled, when our Issacharite northern brothers and sisters, when the Spaniard conquistadors came and destroyed them. And we're still mourning. You ever seen these ice raids? They got the northern tribe brothers and sisters all in an uproar, them pilling, taking babies out of mother's hands. Judah mourneth, man. The Israelites are in mourning. These conditions that they are putting on Israel, our oppressor isn't, they're not forced into these conditions like we were. So they always want to run with that narrative and say, well, I grew up poor. Well, I mean, shit, it sounds like you just a two-time loser in your own country. We had various hurdles to jump, various obstacles to go through just to survive normally, let alone make it somewhere in society. But then when we make it in society, what do? Anybody want to take a guess? And Salaki, my throat's irritated, so I'm coughing a little bit. Bear with me. I'm trying to push through this class the best that I can. But when white people, Salaki, when black people, when niggas get a little taste of success, what do? Do we go back to the neighborhoods we grew up in and fix them? What do? This how much white people got white privilege. You understand? White people got so much white privilege. Get a brother a hand. He said we want to join with white people. Bingo. White people have so much white privilege. When a nigga get a taste of money, we'll donate all our money back to white privilege. Am I lying? Am I lying? And then what happens after that? After we go join white people, right? After we go back and join white people, what happens? What happens? There should be a ton of answers in there now. What happens? After we go back and join white people, what happens? Salakia. After we go and join white people, right? This is what happens. After they finish using us up, they remind us that we black. They go and remind us that we black. They don't just allow you to join them and be like, "Oh yeah, he's a good white man." Remember, they wouldn't let Oprah Winfrey in a jewelry store. They didn't know who the hell she was. And Oprah Winfrey's worth $1 billion. Remember, they spray painted nigger on LeBron James' house, and they told LeBron James to just shut up and dribble the basketball. Remember that? They remind you who you are. Oh, remember Tiger Woods? They for sure reminded Tiger who he was. That oppressor that he married took half his ish and got little. You understand? And got little. Yeah, they gonna remind you who you are. That's why when we mourn, we should mourn together. Not just one of us, not just two of us, not all the poor, but the entire nation of Israel. But the entire nation of Israel should be in mourning. Hold on, let me go back. Judah mourning, and the gates thereof language. Why are the gates thereof language? The gates are languishing. The gates are weak. The gates represent protection. White people have protection. That's part of white privilege. They have some of the best armies, some of the best navies. Guess what? They got Amber Alerts for little white girls who go missing. But our leaders, they haven't protected us because our leaders joined us in the hands of the oppressor. Our leaders joined us in the hand of the enemy. Our leaders would rather us worship the gods of our oppressor versus worshiping the God of the Bible. Our oppressors want us to embrace white privilege and not black privilege, the Bible. That's why our gates are languishing. That's why our gates are weak. The gates and the fence, they're built to protect the house. And that is supposed to be the leaders of our nation. But if the leaders of your nation are selling you out like Dr. Martin Luther King and the Jesse Jacksons, that means the gates are weak. The infrastructure is compromised. We have no protection. That's why we're mourning. Because we didn't have, well, let me word this correctly. Because we have a leader now, Commander General Yohana, right? But the wickedness that was in the forefront of the black nation, right? Hispanics and Native Indians. When I say black, it's all the same thing. But what was in the forefront prior to 1969, before the school was established, a lot of the damage was already done. A lot of brothers and sisters have already made their mind. We was just so embedded in compromised to the wickedness. It's going to take a hell of a job for us to reverse and repent as a nation, right? And that's why this truth is such a beautiful thing, when you can understand that brotherhood really is a weapon, that we can lean on each other and love each other and come together and do what's righteous in the eyes of the Lord. You understand? So Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. So that's why those oppressors see always try to compare white privilege to black problems, because being black, not only are the Israelites black, but black also is a condition. That's why we're mourning. All our oppressor is doing is bitching because they broke. That's all. They just bitching because they broke. We broke, but we got way more to bitch about and talk about them. Like I said, you could be a rich Israelite, have all the money in the world, but they're gonna find a way to knock you off your high horse in this society, because this is their kingdom. They have white privilege. And me even proving this tonight, that is a such thing as white privilege, shows you how lost we are as a nation. If you believe that there's no such thing as white privilege, but it's people out here that actually do. You understand? And it's sad, because they have been misled by the Christian church, and they've been misled by our black leaders, because the gates are languished, and they don't even understand the danger that they are in thinking like that. But you have brothers like myself and brothers, men above me in the I.S.U.P.K under Commanding General Yohana. We dedicate our lives on showing brothers the correct way of living, to show you that it's a better way. That it's going to take some endurance. It's going to take some brotherhood. It's going to take some sacrifices. Yeah. Yeah. It's not no what's that shit called that they believe in a Christian church? Uh the gospel where this ain't no prosperity gospel. You're not going to feel good in here and think that, you know, if you ask God just enough, he going to give you them damn lottery numbers. I'll ride past the lottery. I drive trucks. And when I see the Mega Millions or whatever it is, I be like, I never played the lottery a day in my life. But I'm seeing it's up to $900 million. I'm thinking, I'm like, shit, I might go get me a ticket or two. It got me considering. But that's not what life is all about. It's trying to get a bag and get money and prosperity. You have to have brotherhood, and you have to be willing to make sacrifices in order to please the Lord. It's not about getting the bag, because a lot of us, when we get the bag, all we're going to do is please ourselves. We're not going to please the Lord. Why? Because we're not going to take care of the Lord's people. That's how you please the Lord, is taking care of your brother, taking care of your sister, taking care of your nation. And we haven't been shown that. And that's why that's part of the reason why we're in such horrible conditions right now. When Donald Trump and those political figures allowed the government to be shut down and people couldn't eat, if we had brotherhood and we had sisterhood the way that we're supposed to, right? That would have never affected us. It would have never affected us, because like, oh, okay, they cut your snap off, man. Come eat. Come over here and eat tonight. We could take turns. We could have food banks and food drives and food storage, but that takes brotherhood. Not everybody on the internet on TikTok clowning the people who don't get snap no more. Oh, they cut y'all snap. They cut y'all snap off. Nigga, go to work. You sound like the oppressor. As if white people don't get snap and food stamps. They get more. They get more snaps and more food stamps. than black people. But we on the internet arguing all day back and forth about food stamps when we should be coming together trying to figure out the brothers and sisters that really need them and these children that really need them that need to eat. How we gonna fix that when we sitting around arguing? We sitting around degrading each other. We sitting around talking about each other as if we have white privilege. Damn, that's how powerful white privilege is. It's so powerful. Niggas think they got it. Damn, we rather have white privilege than black privilege. That's crazy. That's crazy. We can get on here and talk about each other like dogs, and then all the oppressors just have to sit back and do and be like, oh, they doing it to themselves. They talk about each other like that. But that's what we do, man. But I had a couple more clips before I get to my next topic. I want to show you some more white privilege real quick. Right? Check this one out. Commanding Jenny Hanna played this last night. Oops. So you seen that. And that oppressor, he went to jail. They shot out his tires. They didn't shoot him. But he was in that SUV, that expensive G-Wagon. Those are some expensive trucks, right? But he ran over the police, backed into the car, and he kept on going like, fuck it. You understand? He said, fuck it, I'm out of here. He ran over the police. He went down unscathed, unharmed. You know, they read him his rights or whatever. He gonna get his time, whoop-de-doo. All right. Now, check out this clip. Remember this. I know y'all remember this, brother. Father who killed cop days after son was shot by police walks past 30 officers in court. Father who killed cop days after son was shot by police walks past 30 officers in court. So remember that brother unalived the police because the police unalived his son, right? So all the cops, he walking past the cops, like he looking at them like, yeah, and you can look in the cops' face like, yeah, they wish they can do what they do to him. Now, I'm not saying that the brother should have unalived the police, but what I'm saying, he was in a righteous spirit to be like, nah, man, F that. Like, no, F that. Why did that devil run the police over? Who knows? His fries was cold from McDonald's. The brother clearly, right, wasn't in the right mind, was clearly mourning, was clearly going through some things. But our oppressor would never sit back and analyze us like their brother. They can show empathy to the so-called white man who ran them over because quite naturally, that's their brother. That's their brother. They're going to do that. They're going to uphold those standards in the court of law when it comes to their brother. Now, this is what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on the same thing our oppressor is focusing on, which is brotherhood and building a kingdom. Our kingdom that benefits us, that benefits black privilege. The Bible is trying to show you that you have black privilege, but in order to achieve the goals that are written in the Bible, we got to be separate. We got to be separate from white people. I'm not saying like we all should just get a neighborhood. I mean, that would be nice if all black people could just get a neighborhood and just move all into their neighborhood away from white people. That'd help a whole lot. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying leave the country and move. like some fake Israelite group, everybody moved to Egypt or Africa. I'm not saying none of that. What I mean by separate our spirit out of America. Like take our spirit out of America. Let them have their religion. Let them worship their God, right? We should worship our own. We have the freedom to do so. We're in America. You have the freedom of religion here. You don't have to celebrate Christmas if you don't want to. You don't have to celebrate your birthday if you don't want to. You don't have to eat pork, shrimp, crab, or lobster. You don't have to do any of those things. So we could separate our spirit from America. And if we did that as a nation, we would be much better off as a nation. Because I'm gonna keep repeating it. I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it because the Bible shows us how to have black privilege. This is a black privilege book. I'm gonna read. Look, I'll get another. Let me get another preset. You think I'm lying? You don't think it's black privilege in the Bible? I'm about to show you. I'm about to show you. This is Second Ezra chapter 6, verse. I'm gonna start at 55. Matter of fact, I'll start at 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. So the Bible says everybody come from Adam. But it also says this, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. So everybody come from Adam, right? And also the people whom thou hast chosen. Verse 55. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes. Because thou madest the world for our sakes. He made the world for our sakes. That sounds pretty possessive to me. It don't sound like he made it for everybody. He said he made the world for our sakes. Let me keep reading. Verse 56. As for the other people. Now, as for the other people who aren't chosen, right? Which also come of Adam. Thou hast said that they are nothing. Damn. Think about it. Because in their society, they look at us like we're what? Like we're nothing. But in our society, the Most High God, the world that He created for us, their world, they look at us like we are nothing. But in our world, we should look at them like they are nothing. Because this is how the Lord wanted it to be. I'm not making this up. This is in the Bible. I'm going to read it again. As for the other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle. Now, what is spittle? What is spittle? That's spittle. You spit, that's spittle. He said the other nations that come about them, they are like spittle, and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. And he said he likened the abundance of them, right? Likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. Just imagine carrying a vessel. Just imagine you tell one of your kids, your small kids or something, to pick up a big bowl of water, and they walk and they wobbling, right? You know, the water is dropping out. It's drops coming out the bucket. Them kids ain't about to try to move the bowl or the cup to try to catch the damn drops that's come. No, you just let it fall, and you bring whatever's left in the bowl and sit it down when you get there. But the drops that are out, you not worried about that. That's how the Lord likened it to the other nations. Because the Lord is trying to show who his children are. The Lord is trying to show who he chose. The Lord's showing you who has black privilege. And it's a beautiful thing to have black privilege. Stop trying to have white privilege. That's all we got to do. Stop worrying about white privilege. Stop trying to join the hands of the oppressor. Stop celebrating the oppressor's holidays. Stop trying to love the so-called white man. They already got a lot of love. They got over 400 years of love from us. Start loving your nation. Start loving your brother. Start putting your differences to the side. Stop hating each other. That's what the Lord is trying to show us. That's how we're going to achieve the privilege of the Bible. That's how you achieve black privilege, is by loving your brother like you love yourself. Because if you don't love your brother like you don't love yourself, that means you cannot love the Most High God. And you know I can prove it. It's in the Bible. One of my favorite scriptures since I've been holding down the brotherhood class. Because you can't have brotherhood, or you can't have a nation without brothers. It's impossible. Well, we just gonna have everybody is selfish. You just gonna be you just want to be in the kingdom of heaven by your damn self. And everybody that you like. Right? Well, that ain't gonna work in the eyes of the Lord. It just ain't. You understand? So yeah, that's black privilege right there. You understand? These other nations are like spittle. And like let me read it again. But be like unto spittle, and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. That's these other nations. Spittle, spit, drops of water that falleth from a vessel. Who the hell cares? That shit's gonna evaporate and be gone. You understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, get in line, man. Get in line. The Lord got some special things in store for his people. All we have to do is learn what the Bible says and separate ourselves from our oppressor. You understand? So now I'm gonna get into my last subject before we get up out of here. All right. Oh, here we go. Now, if anybody's been following this like me, and this is show you can't call the Christian church for help. The Christian church is not going to help you. You understand? This oppressor, this so-called white woman, right? She's been calling churches and asking for baby formula. I thought it was hilarious. Check it out. Help feed her starving baby. Now, she doesn't have. I am calling your church to test to see if they are willing to help feed a hungry baby. So far, I've already called 2 churches, and neither one of them were willing to help feed a baby. And honestly, I'm not even a church, and if somebody called me needing to feed a baby, I wouldn't just hang up the phone. A Kentucky woman, Glenn Monroe, went viral on TikTok for a social experiment she conducted where she called a bunch of churches and asked if they would help feed her starving baby. Now, she doesn't have a real starving child, but she basically just wanted to see how these religious organizations would respond to someone in the community in need, especially in the wake of all of these SNAP disruptions. So far, she's done a 42 video series, and out of those 42 churches, only 9 said help her, the other 33 said no. In the videos, if a church says yes, they will donate, she makes sure to disclose that it is a social experiment. And there has been an overwhelmingly positive amount of feedback for the churches that have said yes. Heritage Hope Church of God in Somerset, Kentucky agreed to help provide baby formula for Nikolai's imaginary baby, and they received over $75,000 in donations to their food pantry. Over the phone, the leader of the church was incredibly eager to help and was even asking if there was a certain flavor or kind of baby formula that she needed. I am calling your church to test to see if they are willing to help. So this oppressor did a social experiment. It was crazy. Everybody donated after the fact that the church said they was going to help. It raised $75,000. You understand? In the middle of a shutdown, in the middle of, you know, everything supposedly being in chaos, right? But this is the thing. Majority of the churches said no. Out of 42, nine said yes. Nine said yes. Right? That has been the Christian church I've known like my entire life. Now they do have food pantries. They do things like that and pass out food. But like the Bible, how the Bible is supposed to be structured, like if you're going to call yourself a religious organization, there shall always be food for the poor. You understand? There should never be a time where someone goes hungry because the Christian church basically teaches that being poor is a sin. And why do I say that? Because they look down on people who are poor in the Christian church, because America looks down on people being homeless. You can get locked up here in America for being homeless. I know you can in Missouri. You can't be out on the streets of Missouri without consequences. They'll lock you up, find you, and send your ass to jail. I don't know how you're gonna get the money if I'm homeless. You're gonna find me. Hell, that might be a blessing for a lot of homeless people because to go to jail, that might be another option, which is ridiculous. But the Christian church has done a horrible job of hell. They done a horrible job of everything, but they definitely did a horrible job of taking care of the poor. Remember that pastor? What was his name? Joel Osteen. When it was flooding down there, was that in Houston? When it was flooding down there, he wouldn't let the people in the church, and he has this big old mega church that probably can hold thousands of people. I believe that was right. Am I right? Right with that? Salakia. I believe that was Joel Osteen. The sister said, "Hey, shalom, sis." The sister, hold on, let me go back. Kawama. The sister said, the sister Kawama, she said the whites are out of control and just figuring out they aren't special. Yeah, get a sister hand for that. It's nothing special about our oppressor. They're only special because they had white privilege, something that was inherited through lies, rape, robbery, and murder. That's why they have the privilege that they have. They didn't get privilege through God. They didn't get privilege through anything um positive. All their privilege came from something radical, something dangerous, something disgusting. That's where all white privilege came from. And then we want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of that. We should be running from that because the Most High God is coming back to judge our enemies for what they did to us. So if you don't want to be judged with your oppressor and the Christian church, how they've been treating poor people, you better run the hell up out of there, and you better come to the I.S.U.P.K under Commander General, and you better learn how to repent. And this is if you Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian. And even if you think you love white people, right? A lot of you really don't love white people. I'm gonna tell you this now. A lot of you really don't love white people. The only reason you want to be white or be associated with anything white is because they are in power. If it was a nation of people who were purple and had blue polka dots, you would want to be with them. You would want to sleep with the people who were purple with blue polka dots. You would want to have children with them. You would want to look like them. You would try to figure out how to dye your skin blue and get blue polka dots. Because the only reason we find uh anything interesting about our oppressors because they're in power and they've been our slave masters for the last 300-400 years. That's the only reason why. And they did a number on us. So that Christian church, right, along with horrible Black spiritual leaders like MLK, right, and that dream, although they never really go in debt how MLK said that he led his people into a burning house. He knew he did wrong. So like he had to get up out of there before that message got popular, now they can focus on the message they need everybody to focus on, which is equality. Little black boys and little white girls and their dream. Because they have to keep feeding this false narrative of hope so they can kill the truth. If you can push this false narrative of hope, because like they say, people say that the truth, the lies are more sweeter than the truth. You understand? It's like music to your ears hearing a lie. People don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear a lie. A lie make you feel good temporarily. But people don't understand how detrimental the lies have been in our lives, our entire life. The lies do nothing for you. They just give you a false hope. They give you a false sense of safety. And they turn around and destroy us as a nation. But the Bible says the truth shall make you free. The moment we start focusing on truth, we won't have to worry about babies going hungry. We won't have to focus on the Christian church because gave us the the Bible gave us the answers to everything that we need to know. But people don't respect us. They don't respect the I.S.U.P.K and Commanding General Hana. I'm not speaking about everybody, but as a whole, because we're not the ones in power. So if you're a brother or sister in the truth in this school, the Lord must really be with you. Because look at all the eyes that we're in order to walk in righteousness and follow the path of our forefathers and our foremothers in righteousness. To be in an I.S.U.P.K, that is a miracle. And I say it all the time. That is a real miracle because everybody else wants to follow who's in power. Everybody else wants to follow the rich. Everybody else wants to follow the elite. Everybody else is celebrating their birthdays and getting high. Brothers is out here sleeping with hoes. Sisters is out here being hoes. Black men want white women. Black women want white men. Everybody's chasing a bag. No one loves each other. Everybody has beef. Look at all the obstacles that we have to overcome to be in the truth. Look at everything we turned away from, we repented from to be in the truth. And we have to walk outside every day and remind ourselves every day that I have to endure. So when you see another brother, when you see another sister, right, we should understand that our nation is destroyed. And we should never be like the Christian church and count them out. Just because we're living our life righteous doesn't mean something can't change overnight. You understand? Things can change. Stuff happens. It could be somebody out there that you like, man, that nigga ain't gonna never change. And the Lord go and tap on his shoulder. Now the brother walking in truth. And it's always a beautiful thing to see somebody come up out of the world and wake up to the truth. So, we got to be patient with each other. We got to love each other. And we got to focus on black privilege, which is this Bible. You understand me? The Bible is black privilege. Stop focusing on the American Constitution because that is white privilege. That is white privilege. Get the hell out of them politics. They confusing our minds. They making us all confused and dizzy, spinning us around each and every other way. Look, let them have their politics. Let them vote. Let them worry about all of that. We'll be fine. We'll be fine and we'll be even better once we come together with each other and put our differences to the side and we start rocking with the Most High God. Like, we'll be even better. Believe me. Believe me, the Lord heard our cries in Egypt, and He got us up out of Egypt, and we still didn't learn. Now we have a chance to learn from all the mistakes our forefathers made. We have a chance to learn all the mistakes our mothers and our fathers made. You understand? Like we have a chance to do all of that. We just have to stay committed. And once we get committed, we got to endure. And we always got to remember that, man, brotherhood is really the key for us to overcome all the obstacles in the world and to push the devil back, to push Satan back, and to take the kingdom. It's going to take brotherhood. Remember that. In order to take the kingdom, it's going to take brotherhood. And with that, Akim, Yabba Shimon Shabbat to the brothers, Akwakim, Yabba Shema Alataba Shimi Asha to the sisters. That's my class. Priest and officer, 1,000 Allah Yashah. Shalom.